My mother suffers from schizophrenia and believes she can see the future. I take care of her, but more and more often I feel like I'm losing myself.
I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe I just need to get this out. Maybe I'm hoping that someone will read this and realize that I'm not going crazy. Or at least that I'm not the only one. In fact, only those who have lived through this will be able to understand. And I guess I really need those people right now. My name is Kate. I'm 26. Since I was 24, I've lived in the same house with my mother, who was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. But it's not just an illness. It's a black hole that sucks in everything around it, especially when the person suffering from it is your mother. And especially when she truly believes that she can see the future. My dad left us when I was 13. He couldn't take it. At first, there were just visions. My mother would wake up at 3 in the morning and write down strange dreams in her diary, calling them warnings. Then the screams started. She saw how the glass roof is falling on me, or how the house is filling with water and I am drowning. She taped up the windows. She burned my things because they were marked. Dad tried to help, dragged her to doctors, but one day he just packed a suitcase. He kissed me on the forehead, promised that he would return when everything was settled, and did not return. I don't know why, but we never took her to the hospital. Firstly, it was simply impossible to make her because a person in an acute phase never feels that something is wrong with him. She would not agree. I had no idea what to do. I would not wrap her in a blanket or handcuff her. Oh God, how wrong I was. 2 years ago, in December, Mom was officially diagnosed and taken to her first hospitalization. I remember the smell of tangerines. I was peeling one in the kitchen when I heard a dull thud from my mother's bedroom. I dropped everything and ran there. She was sitting on the floor by the mirror, covered in blood. Her palm was cut, deep, torn. Blood dripped onto the old carpet, spreading in dark spots. In her other hand was a shard of mirror. There were inscriptions on the wall behind her, hundreds of times. Not me, not me, not me. It took me a while to realize that it was written in her hand. She was looking at the reflection, not at herself, but past, as if someone was standing there. "She's pretending to be me," my mother whispered. "But I know. I can see how she blinks out of time." I stood between her and the mirror, slowly sinking to my knees, trying to speak calmly. "Mom, it's me. Everything is fine. You're home. You're safe. You're not my daughter." There was no doubt in her eyes, only fear and a terrible determination. She swung the shard, not at herself, at me. I managed to grab her hand. We struggled, and I can still feel how she was shaking as if her whole body was being electrocuted. I pinned her to the floor, called an ambulance, clutching the phone like a life preserver, and only repeated, "Please, help. My mother, she says that I'm not her daughter." She cut herself. "Please, hurry." When the paramedics arrived, she whispered to them, "You're also replaced. You're not real." They had to tie her up to get her to agree to go down to the ambulance. It was impossible to watch without tears. I tried to hold on, but at that moment it was as if something had already died inside me. I was allowed to ride with her in the ambulance. She was silent. Only once, right before the doors closed, she looked into my eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry, Kate. If you were really mine, I would die for you. But now, I'm just waiting for you to go." Since then, I have been her guardian. I remember clenching my fist the day I signed the papers. I was 24, I had just graduated from college. I wanted to start a life. And I inherited an apartment and a man who yells at the mirror because in it is not her, but someone else. About once every 6 months, her pills stop helping. This is called the acute phase. At this time, it is better to take her to the hospital so that she cannot hurt herself or someone else. The worst thing is that she can be convincing. She keeps diaries. She has dozens of them, all written in tiny handwriting with dates, times, and frightening detail. One of them said, July 27th, Kate will break her left pinky. She will fall rushing to work. I read this in the morning, laughed, and 3 hours later I really fell on the stairs at the metro. Pinky, left, broken. This was not the only case. I understand that somewhere in my subconscious, this scenario was deposited and played out, since I was already set for it. But believe me, in the moment, it is so difficult to convince yourself of the logic of this situation. Sometimes she looks out the window at night and whispers, "That boy shouldn't have gone in there. They'll find him in the river tomorrow." And I read on the news in the morning, a teenager drowned. I don't know how to explain it. But even if she sees something, it doesn't make her healthy. The weeks are different. Sometimes she sits quietly, looking out the window, talking quietly to herself. And sometimes, a week ago, I woke up to the smell of burning. She set fire to the curtains. She said that the shadow in the corner was trying to come to me, and fire was the only way to stop it. Mom doesn't trust clocks anymore. Time isn't real. It moves in the wrong direction, she says. She draws spirals everywhere, on the walls, on the mirrors, even on her skin. One day I asked, "Mom, if you can see the future, when will you die?" She looked straight at me and said, "I'm already dead. You just haven't realized it yet." I started crying. I don't know who I'm more afraid of, her or what's inside her. Sometimes she looks at me like I'm not me anymore. "You've changed," she says, "since you were switched at the hospital." I wasn't switched. At least that's what I believe. I recently found a new diary, unsigned, with dates for next week. Kate will find the old door to the basement. She'll open it, and she'll understand everything. I didn't know we even had a basement. But of course I went looking for it. Oh my God, I think I'm going crazy too. I found it today. The door was hidden behind a cabinet in the pantry. It was obvious that no one had entered it for decades, but the lock gave in easily. Inside, there was a staircase leading down, dark, old, with wooden steps. I had only one thought in my head. She wanted me to find this place. But why? I had no idea how far things had gone. I went down and found a room. Empty. Almost. On the floor, a circle of salt. Inside, my childhood photos, hair, $1, and a piece of paper with the inscription, "I tried to protect you, but you're not you anymore." I ran out of there and locked the door. I was so exhausted that I squatted by the door and cried nonstop for 20 minutes. Then I called my friend and told her everything. She sympathetically suggested that I take my mother to a psychiatric hospital. But firstly, she is not in an acute phase now. They do not take people when there is no exacerbation. Secondly, every time I take her to the hospital, I feel like I am betraying her. Would she have done this to me if she were healthy? The feeling of guilt is literally eating me up from the inside. I politely told my friend that I would think about it. And then I hung up and continued crying. I often think that I can't just up and leave the house. I can't pack a backpack and fly to Iceland to finally see the northern lights, as I have dreamed of since my teenage years. I can't get on a train and travel around Europe, sleeping in hostels and listening to music in street bars. I can't have a normal relationship. What's the point of telling someone? Yes, I live with my mother. She has schizophrenia. Sometimes she attacks people. Sometimes she cuts her hands. Sometimes she says that I'm a fake sent by a creature from the future. By the way, it's also hereditary. So if we have children, you can expect a surprise. But otherwise, everything is fine. Do you want to go to the movies? One guy once said that this is a love test, that if a person really loves, then he will accept everything. I checked. He did not accept. 2 weeks later, he said that he could not sleep at night after his mother stood over his bed and repeated, "His eyes are empty. Can't you see it?" I would run away too. This is my fate. I don't see any other way out. I won't be able to live with my conscience if I send her to a mental hospital. And yes, if she's not in an acute phase, a mental hospital is a paid facility. I simply won't have enough money to support her there and me here. Today, my mother said, "You have to go. I've done everything I could. He's already here." I don't know who he is, and I don't know if I'm really going crazy, or if I've just lived too long next to her. But if I disappear tomorrow, maybe someone will read this.